Hi all, in today's videos we will be looking at the use of Terraform and how we will use Terraform to deploy Azure resources such as Azure Resource Group, VNET, NSG, public IP and a virtual machine. So before we do that we need to have an Azure subscription. We should be logging into via Azure portal and there should be commands that should be accessible from Azure CLI. So I have a system where I have uh, things Azure CLI installed on it. If you could see Azure account, and so it says you can just list it, and so I have two subscriptions that you could see. So let's get started. So if we talk about Terraform, it's an infrastructure as a code tool that we are using. So the extension is TF Terraform file, and what we would be seeing in this video, we would be deploying a Linux VM, an entire resource group out of that. So let's look at the Terraform codes that are there. So it's a folder based deployment. Every file should be in a particular folder, and from there we will be running the Terraform. How to install Terraform we will discuss in another video, but the motive of this video is to show the usability of Terraform as infrastructure as a code. In later videos we will also be using Terraform and link it and using it via Azure repo as well, via Azure DevOps. So this is our folder, uh, deployment one, in which we have these four files: main TF, network TF, instance and vars. And these three are the keys which have been generated through PuTTY, and we will be using this particular key in our deployment, and will be stored. But for accessing the server we would be using mykey.ppk. This is a private key. So let's get started. So we are into our Terraform, but before we go, let's look at the code. So this is the vars.tf, where we have defined particular variables which will be used by all these Terraform files. That is main.tf, instance.tf, and network.tf. So we have one variable with the name of location, and the default value is East US. It's a type of string. Similarly, there is a prefix which we would be using for naming of the VM and other things such as the network, VNET, subnet, and all. And similarly, there is a SSH source address, which is a type of string, and the default is asterisk. And let's come on to the network, which would be the base, and let's first see the main TF. So main TF, we will just see it's an Azure provider. So every Terraform, every particular Terraform has multiple supports multiple providers, whether it's AWS, Azure, or Google, or from cloud perspective, and it also supports such as Kubernetes and others. So there is a link which I will be sharing in the text of the video. You could have a look at it. It's a common thing. You can easily find it on Google as well. So here we will be creating a group resource group. This main TF file will create a resource group. So this Azure RRM resource group, this is a particular this is not a value, this is a uh, particular attribute you could just see in here. And if you see this page for Azure, it will show you Azure resource. This is the syntax, and these are the arguments that you could add, like what would be the location, what would be the name of the resource group that you can add, and then IDs are the other attributes that you could see. So every particular resource has such kind of configurations. If we come on to network resources, and if we scroll downwards, there would be virtual network, So it has this particular pattern. You could just refer the code here. We are using the similar code, but we have modified it into the names as per what we need. So if you see, it will create a resource group. What we are using here, we are not hard coding the value. What we are using, picking up the location name from vars.tf, like var dot location. So it will be picking up var dot location, and the default is east us. So if nothing is given, it will pick up east us as the location and will deploy in it. Similarly, let's come on to the network. So all are related, right? So network.tf would be picking up the resource group and locations from main.tf and vars.tf. So it is all picking up the variable. If you see, we would be creating resource, uh, which is of VNET, and with the name of test. Sorry, it will be of the name of the VNET would be prefix hyphen network. That would be the prefixes in here. It's test hyphen network. It will pick up this prefix, and then it will use that as test hyphen network. It will use the same location as east us from the variable, and resource group name it will pick up from the pattern. If you see the main.tf, if you go in here, it's azure underscore rm underscore group dot test, and then the rest. If you see, dot test dot name, so it will pick up the name from here. So all the files are combined, and things are related. Then we will be defining the address space of the thing. We will just see to it. In the similar terms, we would be creating the subnet, which has a dependency on VNet and the resource group name, and the name would be test hyphen internal hyphen one. So this will be picked up from vars.tf, which is a variable file. Similarly, you could just see it's a security group with the name of allow ssh. This will be a uh, the name would be test hyphen allow hyphen ssh, the nsg that would be created, and that would be used or will be linked to a particular VM that would be deployed uh, via instance.tf. And if you see in here, these are the rules which are present. It will allow port 22 so that the VM can be accessible via port 22 SSH into it. So we would be using Linux Ubuntu VM for the deployment. So let's come in here and see, it's Azure virtual machine. Then and the name would be test-VM, and location would be East US, and this is the parameters that we have specified. The size, this would be the size of the VM, and everything. Then there is parameters. We have defined the image what would be used for the canonical. So this is how it would be using. Then there would be storage. The name of the disk would be of myOS disk 1, and so on. So this would be the admin name, the username that we would be using to log into the box using the SSH key. So this particular key, the public key, right, this needs to be present into the same folder so that it could pick it up and there are no particular errors. If you place it, if it's not in the same folder, then it will throw an error, or you need to change the path. And this will also copy this particular key into the Linux box as well, this key. Then this is a network interface card. The name of the card would be test-instance1. So all this value is from the var.tf. And then we would be linking the NSG to this particular VM, to this NIC. The NSG would be associated, then this NIC would be associated to the NSG. So this is the code for the same, and there would be a public IP that would be associated with this, with the name of this would be the public IP. Let's get started and see how things work and how we run the code. So if you see in here, we will use Terraform. The first command that's going to use is for initializing. So what it's going to be using, it would be downloading the provider file. If you see here, it will be initializing the provider plugins, and it will download the plugin. So once it does that, it will create a .terraform folder in the same directory. If you see, it's successfully initialized. zoom in now, working on Terraform and all. So if I go into the directory, so in this one you could see this Terraform plugins and Windows AMD. So this is the Terraform provider file which is loaded, and the providers are actually required for Terraform to be executed for the code. Then the second is we use the Terraform plan, which basically what does it will show you like what will be deployed, how many resources will be deployed, so that you could review it before you apply the Terraform on the folder. So it will show you what it's gonna do. So it will be just checking in, and it will see the plan and what it would be doing. The state of the file will be stored in the same folder itself. So what it says is the plan is 7 to add, 0 to change, and 0 to destroy. So let's go ahead. So now if we go into our portal, uh, just a sec. If you see in here, right, so we do not have any particular group, resource group with the name of test. So what we can do is we will go in here and run it and apply it, that Terraform configuration. So it will now do the same thing as plan. It will be checking the state, and then it will be asking that 7 things to be added, what you want to perform. So if you select yes, it will deploy the entire stuff that we discussed at the start of the this particular video. I hit enter, so you will see that it will be deploying each and every stuff onto Azure. I will pause the video. Once it's completed, I will come back. Okay, welcome back. So this is just completed. So all the resources have been deployed. If you see what it has done, resource group it created a virtual network, public IP, network security group, and it also then created a virtual machine within this one. So let's see into the Azure portal what it is there. So I will refresh it. If you see, this is a test resource group that we saw, and if you see, we have a test VM, we have a test network, and which has the same thing with the, so it has a subnet, test internal 1. So everything is same what we have specified, right? We have a VM. If I go on to the VM, and you will see how to connect to it. So this is the public IP which you could see, and I copy it. I will be doing a putty into it. So the username was demo. I will paste it. Then I will be going into the SSH, and in the SSH I will specify the key. The key is in this folder. This would be the private key. So I will choose this one and I will open it. So it generated a fingerprint, and it's authenticating with the public key. And if you see, we are into the box. So this is how we deploy it, right? So now it's a good practice. If you are not using it for the lab environment, you should remove the environment. So we would be using the same plan. So let's, before we do that, I would just like to show you that it also created a TF state file. Okay, so if I go to the TF state and see like what's in there, so TF state, so it will maintain the entire database of the Terraform deployment, what it did, what was the name of the things and all. of the resources, everything. So it will maintain the database of what we have deployed and what we have removed. So let's go and destroy the environment. So the command is a simple one. So let's destroy. It will again ask for our permission to accept it or provide a value, and then if when we deploy it, it will remove the entire resource group and the resources underneath it. So it will say that 7 to destroy here if I say, and 0 to add. If you have some modification when you are doing a Terraform plan, if you are making a change, then it will tell you that only one or two to modify whatever changes you do when you are doing a Terraform apply command. But for destroy, it will just do the same thing. If we can also specifically put a value when we are using a destroy or apply. So I will say here yes, and it will destroy the environment and everything's gonna go away. So it's removing it. I will pause it and then I will come back. So welcome back. So if we see here, it has destroyed most of the things, but it says that error deleting network interface. So we can just check that out, but this is how it works. And if we go into the test resource group, if I go in here and test resource group and I do a refresh, so there are few configurations which are not just yet removed. So we will just check it out in the next video. So it can happen sometimes. There could be some dependency. So this is about this particular video that I wanted to share with you. Hope you would be liking this. Thank you and have a great day.